Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Misty Morrison Podcast. I'm your host, the wonderful Misty Morrison, and today we have episode number 5 of Petty Please. All of our stories today are coming from r/petty revenge, so let's get right on into the pettiness. Just based on the titles alone, I feel like we have some really great stories today, so let's get right on into the pettiness. Story number 1. Sticky Fingers. One of the banes of existence is the struggle to find parking in a city, especially on a busy summer evening. I had to meet my girlfriend and her friends for dinner one Friday night in Harvard Square. It's a difficult task to find a metered spot at any time of day, but dinner time on a weekend is a nightmare. There's really only one pay lot, and it fills up. Plus, it can cost $40 for a few hours. Side streets are resident permits only, with 1 or 2 visitor spots per block, so you're pretty much relegated to the main roads. I made the circuit several times, expanding the area each time, getting further and further out from my destination. It was getting later and later, and my girlfriend was calling, wondering where I was. Finally, I saw a spot open up. It was about 6 blocks away from the restaurant, but beggars can't be choosers. I zoomed up, put my blinker on, and started to parallel park in the space. All of a sudden, a woman in another car nosed into the spot behind me. There we were, me half backed in the spot and her half nosed into it. Neither of us could fully get into the space. I beeped angrily, waved at her, and she just looked straight ahead, ignoring me. If I tried to make an adjustment to reposition the car, she'd pull further in. At this point, the angle she had pulled in put her front wheel on the sidewalk. I got out of the car and walked to her window, shouting the question, "What do you think you're doing?" Still, she ignored me. I wasn't going to pound on her car or cause any violence, as angry as I was. Traffic was snarled behind us, having to go around the 2 cars. There were no cops in the area to mediate, and it was getting later still, so I pulled out and cut my losses. I ended up finding a spot past Porter Square, a little over 1.5 miles from my destination. Seething, I thought, if ever a car deserved to be keyed, it was hers. But I wasn't going to commit vandalism, even as furious as I was. Instead, I popped into a convenience store and bought a bag of cheap bubble gum. Those knobs of individually wrapped fruit-flavored gum that lost their flavor 2 minutes after you started chewing. I spent the next 15 minutes of my walk creating 4 giant sticky wads of gum. Sloppy and full of spit, I put each lump in the bag until I reached her car. Then, each mass of sugar and spit was pushed up under each of the door handles, where you wouldn't notice until you went to open up the door. The warm night ensured it would stay soft and slimy. I would have loved to watch her go door to door trying to avoid getting gum on her hands, but I was late for dinner. I mean, you had the time because you had to walk 1.5 miles to go to your dinner. It sounds like incredibly late. One of the many downfalls of cities, the lack of parking, or the expense of parking. I mean, that's so petty and gross and brilliant. I love that because you didn't hurt anyone. You didn't hurt anyone. You just did something incredibly gross, but it's really cheap for you to do it. So I'm here for it. We're off to a good start. Our next story number 2, Asshole Neighbors. So we've lived in our house almost 30 years. Our neighbor to the right Our neighbor to the right has a wife that is just the most vile waste of oxygen subhuman I've ever known. This woman despises us because, I kid you not, we have trees, and our leaves fall on her yard. It's about 20 years ago. I was coming home from a swing shift and smell this real strong chemical odor. When I got out of my Jeep, my feet were crunching, and I shined the flashlight and saw these white granules. So we have a strip of land between our 2 driveways. It's about 6 feet wide. Neither of us have golf course lawns, and I would allow the dandelions to grow. My bearded dragons loved eating the flowers, and the flowers would attract the bees, which would go in and pollinate our garden. Come to find out, the witch of a wife put herbicide all over my lawn and their lawn. So I went over the next day and confronted her, and she started to complain about when the dandelions bloom and the seeds blow in her yard. I looked around our court and said, Jesus Christ, everybody on the court has dandelions. You're going to do that to their yard as well? Over the years, things just got worse and worse with her. Like I said, their yard is just as shitty as mine is. So what I would do is go to the farm store and buy great big packs of dandelion seeds. I'd wait till it was nice and dark and throw seeds all over their yard in the backyard. Needless to say, they were not happy to have all the dandelions, and I have none in my backyard. Evil genius. Brilliance. That's just the most outrageous thing. Like, the strip between you guys is maybe split, like maybe half and half theirs, half and half yours. Either way, like, you knew what you did was wrong. And she knew what she did was wrong. I really hate that she did that. That bugs me. But that's also more reason why it's amazing not to have neighbors, especially not close neighbors. So she put stuff on your yard. Turnabout's fair play. You put stuff on her yard. It is very, in my mind, it's very mildly petty and the least of what she deserved for literally poisoning your yard. So I'm here for it. Story number 3. From 5 stars to jail bars, I threw my sister in jail. Technically, she is my half-sister, but moving forward, I had been trying to get a restraining order against my mother, her husband, and my half-sister. With everything I had, it should have been a done deal, but the judge thought otherwise and denied it. Before we left the courtroom, my lawyer asked to put a statement on the record, which was that I had all the power, and if they showed up on your property, I have the right to have them arrested. I told him I understood, and then looked directly at them and said, if you show up on my property, I will not ask you to leave or tell you to leave. I'll just call the police. You will be arrested, and I will press full charges for trespassing. A little on my sister. She's spoiled. My parents put all their money and efforts on her, and it's now biting them in the ass. Read prior posts on my family to get a better understanding. But the long story. We come from money. She was the chosen one. She got everything. I built my own life. I'm getting ready to move and have been packing, and she showed up yesterday. I did exactly as I told them I would. I didn't ask or tell. I just called 911 and explained the situation. The police showed up, asked her what was going on. She said I was her brother and that she wanted to talk. I told the police and her that she had no business being here and to arrest her, and I was pressing full charges, and they did just that. I feel nothing. The level of hatred I have for her is dangerous. She has treated me like less than any kind of a living human being my entire life. She thrives on this. I feel like I was perfectly justified in doing so. They knew what would happen if any of them showed up. So, F around and find out. Ooh, I feel like we could probably have an episode just for, to read the rest of OP's posts about the family to find out more details on how we got here. OP's username, if you want to look them up, is u/just_a_rn. Ooh, I mean, yeah, you said outright on record what would happen if they came, and you followed your word. So, perfectly justified. I don't think that was petty at all. You couldn't get the restraining order that you wanted. It sounds like you probably needed. So, yeah, I think you were justified. I don't think you were even being petty at all. I think you were just protecting yourself from people who mistreat you. All right, story number 4. I stole his ashes out of spite. This happened last year, and honestly, it's probably the pettiest thing I've ever done. Let's start at the beginning. My bio dad was never really around when I was a kid. When he left, most of his side of the family went with him. The only ones who stayed in contact were my aunt and my grandfather, both of whom have since passed. I had an okay relationship with my half-sister growing up, but that was about it. When I was 16, I finally met some of my dad's family. He still didn't show up. I built a relationship with my grandmother around that time, but I didn't actually meet my dad until I was 20, and even then, it was only over the phone and online. Fast forward to last year, I was 29 when he died. Nobody told me. My sister even drove 10 hours to visit him in the hospital while he was on life support for 2 days. Meanwhile, I found out after he died, when his ex-wife, not my mom, just some random woman, messaged me offering her condolences. That was how I learned he was gone. It hurt. I had spent most of my life wanting to meet him, and it turned out he had moved back to the area a year before he died. He had a relationship with my sister, but apparently me and our younger sister didn't make the cut. So like any reasonable person, I did a little digging. I found out which mortuary had him and gave them a call. They told me my grandmother and sister said they had no way of contacting me, which is hilarious considering they're both on my Facebook where I'm extremely active, and my sister used to call me at least once a week before all this. The mortuary needed a majority of his children to consent to cremation, so I called my younger sister and together we went down there and signed the new paperwork. We arranged it so that the ashes would come straight to me. They said they couldn't give me the urn that had already been purchased. It had to go to whoever paid for it. So basically my grandmother paid for an urn and was handed an empty one. Now my dad's ashes are in the back of my closet. I handed out some to my nieces and nephews. My younger sister wanted nothing to do with him, and honestly, I don't blame her. I told my grandmother and sister they could apologize first if they wanted to make things right. There has been dead silence. No regrets. Okay, when I read the title, I thought, oh, we're going really far here. But reading the story, especially knowing that they said that they lied and said they had no way of contacting you because for whatever reason they didn't want to tell you or didn't think you deserved to know, that's messed up. So, I mean, again, turnabout's fair play. They did something messed up. You did something messed up back. But apparently legally, like, you were within your rights because there were two of you, two of the offspring, to give consent to cremation. So, and I mean, it sounds like because you really don't want them, if they would apologize, it sounds like you would probably give them the ashes. And if they're not willing to do that to get that piece back, there's something very wrong with these people. So I'm with you. No regrets. Story number 5. I'm wrong because you have a higher position? Get smacked. I tried to help us. Around 15 years ago, I worked as a contract nursing assistant for a hospital. One of my jobs as agency CNA was I had to manage a room called the restraint-free room, mostly because I was a big, tall dude, but also because I was agency and the other CNAs hated it, and the full-timers had their clique and agency ain't it. Reason it was called the restraint-free room is because the facility had strict rules on restraints and only used them as absolute last resort, preferring to put them all in a small room with someone watching them and redirecting them. But sometimes you just get someone in there that pissed off the nurses. One night, I got one of these guys. He did not want to wear his CPAP machine. Helps him with sleep apnea and probably needs it. But he hates it because it's bulky as hell, the straps suck, and he could not toss and turn in it without waking up. That plus being stuck in a hospital for 2 weeks and being stove up drove him nuts. In my training as a CNA, I was always told a patient can deny treatment and go AMA except in certain cases like they are a danger to themselves or others, or they can't make decisions because of some medical or legal condition. Being of somewhat right mind, after talking with him, he had the right to not wear the thing or have his concerns without it addressed. I did try to convince him to wear it. It is my job. But when he got agitated, I said he had a right to do it, and I mentioned I'd have to chart this. He agreed and we were cool. And this should have been the end of it. I chart patient is refusing to wear CPAP, nurse informed. Most places I had worked, it was no problem. Someone with a higher pay grade can handle it. Or ignore it. No need for a big deal. Then a nurse practitioner, the charge nurse, and the floor nurse I was under enter into the room at like 4 a.m. and flick the lights on. Nurse practitioner is pissed. For those unaware of the culture of medicine, think of it like hierarchies of tribes, each with its own hierarchy and shared language. In nursing, a nurse practitioner is only rivaled by an anesthesia nurse, even outranking nurse managers. Almost on par with lesser doctors, but not in the doctor tribe, and have enormous autonomy and perks. At the absolute bottom are nursing assistants. While essential, we are expendable and do the dirtiest work and spend the most time with patients. She starts berating the floor nurse, then looking in my direction. These people, meaning nurse assistants, i.e. me, are supposed to make sure the patient is wearing the CPAP. It's their job. And your job to make sure they do this. Are you just sitting here being lazy? All of this in front of the patient, of course, along with another poor patient that just kept falling out of bed, waking him up. Ma'am, you are a nurse practitioner with years of experience and education. If you could show me your technique to do this, I'd be much in your debt. After all, CNA school is only a month long. Mind? She grabs the CPAP, goes over. Here, Mr. Whatever, you need this, and tries to put it back on. Smack! I think that slap could be heard all the way to the nurse's station. The nurse practitioner's glasses went flying. And in a flurry of activity, code called, and a squad of other CNAs and a nurse with a large dose of emergency tranquilizer march in, stab him in the butt, and he is in 5-point restraints and out of my room because, well, no restraints in the restraint-free room. I turned to the nurse practitioner after the chaos. If one of your RNs wrote non-compliant, you would not say they're If one of your RNs wrote non-compliant, you would not say they are lazy. You would respect their assessment. Why should this be different for a CNA? When I chart this, I don't do this because I want to lay out. I do it to inform the proper people while making sure my patient is safe and I'm safe. She looked up, still probably seeing stars, nodded, and apologized. I never had crap from her the rest of my tenure there, and even had me help fix a laptop she had with a simple repair. Not all revenge has to be malicious. Sometimes it can be educational. TLDR, Big Nurse ignores and dismisses what a lowly nursing assistant reports as laziness due to stereotypes. F's around and finds out, to the chagrin of the patient, unfortunately, and herself. Yeah, I really like the way you handle it. You're just like, all right, go ahead, do it yourself. And she did, and she truly effed around and found out. I'm glad that she did learn from the situation rather than just trying to push it back off on you and get you in trouble. Because you're right, patients always have the right to refuse medical advice. Yeah. I like it. I mean, personally, I don't care that she got slapped. It sounded like she had it coming. But at least it did get the intended result, which is for her to understand that patients can, in fact, refuse medical advice and to take CNAs seriously when they chart their notes. Story number 6. You want to make me do your work for you? Well, now you can't take your break. I have a coworker who is incredibly lazy. She's never been a hard worker, but within the last year, it's gotten bad. She could technically retire, but chooses not to for whatever reason, which I wouldn't mind if you actually did your job, but not only will she never help the office, she doesn't even get her own damn work done. As you can probably tell, this woman annoys the hell out of me for a multitude of reasons. We have a system in our office where all customer questions go into the same queue. If it's an email, a voicemail, part of an online chat conversation with an employee in another department, it goes into this queue. For whatever reason, anytime my coworker encounters a question that will take more than about 10 seconds to answer, she assigns it to me. which, yes, I'm very knowledgeable about our department. However, this woman has worked here 3 times as long as I have and should know these things herself. Today, she assigns me a question, and as soon as I read it, I have no idea why she assigned it to me. Because she should have assigned it to my boss and or talked to my boss about it. As mentioned, I assign it to my boss and then go and tell her about it. During the beginning of our conversation, I overhear said coworker on the phone ordering food for lunch. Usually she hangs up the phone, waits about 5 minutes, and then heads over to pick up the food. Well, I'm still in my boss's office talking about this question. I should probably mention my manager loves to talk, and while I'm usually trying to slowly back out of her office to end a conversation, this time I take a seat and proceed to actively engage. So the minutes are ticking by, and my coworker can't take her break because someone always needs to be in the office, and obviously I'm unavailable. At one point, I kind of tilt the chair so I can see her out of the corner of my eye, and I can tell she's just itching to run out of here, but she can't leave. What should have been, at most, a 5-minute conversation turns into a 20-minute conversation. Then I added a little more revenge because as soon as I left my manager's office, I ran out of our office to use the restroom, just to delay her break even further. I can't tell you how satisfied I feel right now. I like it. The little inconveniences, it's just easy revenge. Yeah. Story number 7, bank customer stymied. Many years ago, I worked for a bank. It opened 9 to 5 Monday through Friday and 9 to 12 noon on Saturday. We were paid during opening hours, but setup and branch closing always seemed to be unfairly on our time. Saturdays tended to be quiet, so we prepped branch closing ahead of time. We all had assigned actions and should have been able to leave the branch within 2 minutes of closure. Enter Mr. Tosspot. Mr. Tosspot was a slimy individual with no known friends. He had one of those smug smiles, and I'm fairly sure he hated women. We were all low-paid women, and most had young children that they wanted to get home to see. Mr. Tosspot would hang around outside until 11:58 a.m. Then he'd come in and make a big show of slowly getting his paperwork out. He'd ask the same stupid questions every Saturday, just to waste our time. If anyone showed slight annoyance, it made him happy. We waited him out until one day he had to say, "I do hope that I'm not delaying you from your weekend and family time." Smug smile on a face that was begging to be slapped with a crowbar. My genius colleague responded with a smile. "Not at all. After 12, we get paid double for every minute of overtime." "So you are doing us a big favor. Thank you so much." His face was a picture, and he then tried to rush the transaction, which we wouldn't allow. He was sweating and irritated. You could tell he wanted to shout at us. We just kept our customer service smiles on the whole time. That was the last time he ever attempted to arrive late. Perfect. That one, I don't even know if that's really petty. Like, he deserved that. Maybe I just don't feel like it's that petty because I'm a petty person, but he deserved that. I'm glad you guys taught him the lesson because what he was doing was really cruel, keeping you guys from going home to see your families on a Saturday afternoon. Super unfair, super unnecessary. So, I mean, sure, you told a little white lie to get there, but it didn't hurt anybody. All right, that is 7 stories, all from r/petty revenge for this week's episode of Petty Please. If you are listening on podcast, please leave a 5-star review to help the channel grow. If you are watching on YouTube, please like the video, comment with your thoughts on the stories, and subscribe for more. As always, share with a friend if you like the content. And thank you for being here. I'll see you next time for another episode of the Misty Morrison Podcast. Bye.